Good morning and welcome to Motivational Mornings, the podcast that gets you going before you get going.
Good morning and welcome to Motivational Mornings. My name is Ryan, and as always, I'm here today with my co-host, Vivi. So we have some important or big news today. So today is actually going to be the last episode of Motivational Mornings. Me and Vivi were both pretty sad that it's going to be the last one. We're going to wrap this up, but we've both just been getting really busy this past few months and even this past year, and we didn't have the time to deliver the quality we really wanted in these episodes. And you guys noticed that we've been doing it monthly instead of weekly when we first started. So we figured, you know what, maybe it's a sign, maybe it's time to wrap it up. So this will be our last episode. We will be leaving the prior episodes online. I know people still listen to them, so if you ever want to go back, feel free. And we will have our website still open. So if you guys do want to contact us, feel free to email us. We'll do our best to try and get back to you. But this will be the last Motivational Mornings episode. In today's episode, we're going to discuss the book, What the Heck is EOS? By Gino Wickman and Tom Bauer. So EOS stands for Entrepreneurial Operating System. And this book talks about implementing the system that Gino and Tom created to help provide a corporate structure that provides consistency and help to provide processes to an organization to allow not only the organization to grow, but also the employees to grow.
One of the overarching themes that I really enjoyed, Ryan, was just talking about how these 6 components can help guide the way that the organization is directed in a sole direction. So what do I mean by that, and what are those 6 components? So the 6 components that the EOS operating system talks about is vision, which is component to get everyone aligned and focused on the same vision, so achieving the same thing, wanting the same thing. The people are, do you have the right people in the right seats? So it goes through how asking you, if do you have the right people in the right seats, what are some things you can do to figure out if they're directionally aligned with your vision, and so on and so on. The third thing would be data. So what and how do you plan to objectively measure the performance, or quote unquote have a pulse on what is going on within your organization? Meaning that, a lot of people do a lot of things in different businesses. However, measuring it is one of the key important parts in order to realize where some of the issues may be, whether it be financially, marketing wise, from a service perspective, from a product delivery perspective. Knowing where your measurables lie is the only way to improve them in the future. So that's the third one, data. The fourth one would be issues, where that's a system in which the EOS framework talks about how to identify, discuss, and then to solve the issues at hand. So going through that process, making sure that when issues do arise, having a system in which you can tackle those issues, where they're not taking away from the conversation of the business problems or the business direction or the meeting, is very, very important. So that'd be number 4. Number 5 would be process, or a component to standardize the way that documentation is done and tasks are performed. So that being like, okay, when we have a meeting, what does a document look like, which we're filling out, and what is the accountability that leads from that document? So when is Ryan, for example, or Vivi doing certain tasks? When is it due by, and what are the accountability factors with that? And having a process where you can standardize and document that, so you can come back and forward in that process of doing the actual business or the meeting, is very, very important. So that'd be the process stage. And the last one is just traction, or this one where it talks about figuring out your rocks versus the sand, and focusing your organization about doubling down on fixing the issues pertaining to your rocks versus the things that might be pertaining to the sand. And what I mean by that is, if you have a cup, and if you take that cup and you fill it up with sand, and then you try to fit the big rocks in that cup, well, it's going to be impossible, right? Because you have already sand filling up the cup. However, on the contrary, if you take up that cup and it's empty, and then you fill it with the big rocks first, then with the exact same amount of sand and the exact same amount of big rocks, you can then fit the sand around the big rocks, and then the cup is full with both things, right? So the whole purpose of the last one, traction, is to organize yourself and figuring out or asking yourself, are these issues pertaining to the big rocks that we have to figure out and big rocks we have to abide by in the company based on our vision and the people, all that stuff? Because if it is not, let's not dictate too much time towards it. So we're not wasting as much time figuring out how to deal with all the sand, which the sand will be like the emails and the bings and the palms and all these things coming into our world that are not necessarily relevant to what we have to do as a business. So I wanted to explain that because that in essence is EOS. And EOS is not necessarily something you could kind of just listen to and take something from it in part, but a lot of companies in this book, from I think it was around 10 people and 10 employees all the way to 250 employees, utilize this system as a quick pie chart to make sure that all of those 6 components, vision, people, data, issues, process, and traction, have some sort of directional alignment from the company perspective, so that your company is a lot more successful and focused on their goals, as opposed to just doing things randomly when things kind of ensue, just like maybe like a whack-a-mole system, right? Where something comes up, you smash it, and you move on to the next thing. What's the next thing to come up, right? And that's not a really good way to run a business. And having this organizational EOS framework instituted from the beginning of maybe when you're starting your business, or after you've maybe run your business for a while and then you're shifting directions, is a very key and important way just to delegate those paths so that you have a much higher path for success in the future.
I'm going to talk more about rocks, and Vivi already touched on this briefly, but rocks gets its name from focusing on your higher priority tasks. So if you only have a limited amount of time in the day, you start with your higher priority tasks, and then you can go to your smaller tasks in your remaining amount of time, just like filling up a jar with the big rocks and then the sand. Now, rocks should be set quarterly or every 90 days according to this book. And then what you should also have are to-do items, and these are set every 7 days. So these to-do items, these smaller tasks, should have the goal of moving you closer to completing your rocks or your 90-day goals. Additionally, you want to use the SMART framework for this. So I'm sure you heard of this framework before, but maybe even on this podcast. I'm not going to dive too deep into it. If you're curious, though, feel free to Google SMART goals, and you'll be able to find a lot of resources on it. I think the big takeaway from this is, 1, focus on setting goals, or in this case, rocks. And 2, make sure you're setting smaller goals that feed into a larger one. Big goals can be intimidating, so it's great to have a strategy to have smaller, actionable items that gradually get you closer to your own goals. Now, my old strength coach in college would actually say, if you go yard by yard, it will be hard. But if you go inch by inch, it's a cinch. And I think that really drives home the point of planning each step towards your bigger goals. So I want to talk about one part of the book, and that is about vision. This book talks a lot about vision, and especially on the employee side, it stresses that it's important to understand the vision of the company you work for. But I think we can really take a step back from this and also apply it to other areas of our life. So for me, in this way, vision is similar to seeing the big picture of something. And for example, if you're at work, you'll have your day-to-day tasks, but those tasks will in some way support and push the company towards its corporate vision or the bigger picture. And it's easy to lose sight of that vision when you're working in a company, because typically you have one specialized task. For example, the finance department is likely to focus specifically on the financial health of the company. Or you take the mailman, he's going to be focusing on how to deliver the mail to the right person each morning. Not necessarily the corporate, focusing on the corporate vision of the company. So it's really easy to lose sight of the big picture. But keeping the vision or big picture in mind is important because it can help drive important decisions. When you're unsure if you should do option A or option B, understanding the overall purpose or the bigger picture will help you make the better decision. Now, let's take this idea and apply it to life in general. And one way I think we can do that is dealing with people and dealing with disagreements or arguments. So I find when people get in disagreements or arguments, it can get heated pretty quickly. And at least I find personally, once you're in the middle of it, you often don't want to back down. And I think this book gives a great example of looking at and understanding the bigger picture. What is to be gained from winning the argument? Sometimes, you know what? It can be really important. But sometimes it's also really meaningless and about some irrelevant trivia fact. So having the ability to step back and critically analyze whether this impacts anything important when looking at the big picture, I think is a really important skill to have in life. It will allow you to let the meaningless things go more easily and then allow you to focus your energy and time on the important parts of life, whatever those parts are for you. That wraps up Motivational Mornings. Me and Vivi both want to take the time to thank you for listening and thank you for all the support over the years. We couldn't have done without you guys, and we really enjoyed any of the feedback we got or the emails from you that would talk about your own personal stories or how you listen to Motivational Mornings and were able to use something to kind of help better your life. We really love that. We really appreciate that. So thank you. Well, if you ever want to contact us, our email will be on our website. We'll try our best to check it somewhat regularly, so don't hesitate to reach out. Once again, thanks for listening and have a great day.